Hi guys, Kellan and I spend all of our time trying to figure out how to navigate complicated cannabis challenges. Today, we're excited to bring to you a solution for your accounting needs. Navigating 280E, keeping clean books, and providing financial and accounting advice is a massive headache for so many businesses. End to End is a team of CPAs with backgrounds from the big public firms that specialize in the cannabis industry. End to End is offering a no cost consultation if you tell them the dime sent you. That's right, free accounting advice. Go to n2nadvisors.com now to take advantage of this. That's N, the number 2, NADVISORS.com to get free accounting advice now.
Let's talk about Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. That's right. No more excuses. Get your lazy ass off the couch. Go start a podcast. There's the creation tool that allows you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Once again, no more excuses. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. Couldn't be easier. Even better, you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. That's right. They're paying us for this ad. Thank you very much, Anchor. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started now.
This is The Dime, a 10-minute dive into the cannabis and hemp industry through trends, insights, predictions, and tangents.
So I think that like investing in those kind of things gives you more diversity and lets you kind of ride the wave as a whole within the industry.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point. And that's definitely the best way to get exposure to a variety of companies without having to hand pick your favorites. And, you know, that's probably the simplest way to kind of get your foot in the door. Kellan, I got a question for you though. In a dispensary, right? I walk in, I want to buy some cookies, some Gorilla Glue, something ridiculous name. Am I going to know it's grown by Curaleaf or Columbia Care? Like, how's that going to work?
So that's interesting because every state is different, right? So in Colorado, if you go into, say, the Green Solution, which I'll use that as an example because of the recent acquisition of Columbia Care, little Colorado, New York love right there. But like, so in Colorado, if you walk into the Green Solution, 80% of the products in that dispensary are going to be from the Green Solution, right? So it will be vertically integrated in Colorado. It's how the state set up their cannabis industry in order to regulate it. Their mentality was it's easier to regulate a couple really large players that are vertically integrated than it is to regulate a billion different companies. They limited licenses and all these other aspects from initiation of the industry. You take that to Washington, there's a completely different regulatory system in place there. So you go to Washington, the dispensaries are not allowed to have producer processor licenses. Producer processors are not allowed to have distribution. So you've created by design this fragmented space where you could go into a dispensary and you could buy, say, cookies, right? But that cookies is going to be a specific brand that has nothing to do with that retail location that you might not only be able to find just there. And that might just be one company that's white labeling it for another company, right? So it's a lot more challenging in like states like Washington, like Oregon, like California to figure out if who really owns that product from a branding perspective, right? So say you like Gorilla Glue's 1-2 something, right? Some cookie or something, right? And they have a brand name on it, it's going to be really hard to track that brand name and that product that you like all the way back to, say, the publicly traded stock entity that's responsible for that product. So it's going to be hard to, I know a lot of people, like, if you buy Crest toothpaste, right? Like, is Crest Procter & Gamble or is Crest Johnson Johnson? You know what I'm talking about, right? I don't know,
but I wouldn't know. Like
but some
I don't
people
buy it because it's Procter and Gamble. No, I think it's a great point. So then, just one follow-up question on that is: will companies look to purchase the genetics from a licensing standpoint to incorporate as an asset into their
portfolio?
But yeah, so for example, you can only get Gorilla Glue at Green Thumbs, or you can only get cookies at Curaleaf. Is you think that's the play that these guys go to have exclusivity with these genetics?
It's going to be, that could be a play. What I really think is going to happen is instead of kind of the Monsanto model, kind of is my interpretation of what you just described, right? Owning the genetics and being able to regulate those genetics. What I think it is more or less going to happen is it's going to be appellations, right? So like wine, which California has been, I went to a town meeting in Humboldt maybe 4 years ago about this whole appellation thing as a means to protect the Emerald Triangle, if you will, and some of the quality flower that comes out of that Emerald Triangle with the entire state of California coming online. And so what they did by design was they created an appellation system, same as wine, right? So when you now go buy champagne, technically you're buying sparkling wine now, because of champagne can only be made with champagne grapes out of Champagne, France, right? So the companies operating in Champagne, France don't own the genetics for those grapes, right? Because of epigenetics and the environment that dictates how the plant responds to the sun and all those things, right? From an epigenetic standpoint. So I think cannabis is going to follow that line more or less. And that's kind of the same thing that hops follows too, right? So like the varieties of hops, there's like Cascadian hops, which are up in Washington, and multiple other varieties. So I could see it following the appellation much easier. But then again, I mean, who knows, right? This is the 21st century. Someone might be able to cannabis might be the industry that pioneers ownership of genetics because of CRISPR and all of our understanding. It could be that that's the way it goes.
I think that's a whole nother topic. But
Yeah,
that's like an in-depth one. I to summarize it, I think people are going to be like, oh, I only enjoy cookies from Oregon, right? Those are going to be the same type of snobs that are like, I only like the Pinots from Oregon. And that'll definitely be the route that I would guess. And I think that's an interesting topic that we should definitely expand on, because that's where it gets really unique for the cannabis and how it kind of tends to be more, does it replicate the wine area? Is it more agricultural based? Like how that goes, that's an interesting one to see where the future holds.
All right. So today, Thursday, December 10th, there's an IPO in the cannabis space. Hydro Farms, right? So they manufacture lights and other equipment for indoor cultivation. In 90 days, is the stock going to go up or down? What's your prediction?
Well, to quote Dave Portnoy, stocks only go up. And my prediction is up.
All right.
Prediction is up.
A percentage that you think it goes up?
No, I've got no idea. And conceptually, IPOs have always blown my mind how that works, because with Airbnb being released today, like I want it no matter what, because I love Airbnb, and that is a purely emotional play tied to no logic. And I can't tell you why or how, but I want it and I need to have it. And from a number standpoint, it doesn't matter. I just need it.
Shares went live at 10:10 this morning for Airbnb.
I'm hopeful.
It's frustrating because like I tried to get some of the AI.C3, which is like a software program for companies, but it was frustrating because I read and it was like, oh, it's going to go public at like 38, right? Then it goes public. You're not allowed to touch it for like 5 hours while the banks just play with it. And then
do you know why? You know what you're facing?
What?
Poor people problems.
Yeah, literally.
That's called poor people problems. Other people that are rich as shit in the space don't have those problems.
It triples.
It's not fair. Yes, it's not
before
fair.
I can even buy a share.
And
I was like, well, this is stupid.
It's not fair.
And then you're going to buy it, and it's like, I was like looking at it, I was like, okay, am I going to buy it? It's up 85% today. Like, what am I really going to, like, what am I going to get out of buying it right now, right?
It's not fair. But let's go back to prediction time.
Okay.
I want 3 to 4 years from now, who is sitting on the throne as the premier company and why?
I'm gonna take two as my guess right here. I think GTI, Green Thumb Industries, I think they'll be very high up there. They got a good management team. They have a lot of people that know the plant. They're vertically integrated. There's a lot of things that they're doing that are providing runway for them and are strengthening their infrastructure, if you will. The other company I really like is Columbia Care. You kind of got me on this one. But I do. I like after we chatted about it and I dived into it more. I liked it. And then they came out and they've been doing some really cool things out on the West Coast, right? They acquired a company in California. They acquired a company in Colorado, which are the two strongest cannabis markets. The amount of experience that I think that they are going to glean from those acquisitions are going to set them up to be so successful in New York, just learning from all of the different mistakes and pitfalls that the companies in Colorado experience from the first days of legalization, right? What about you? What are your two or your one company that you think is going to be standing on the top of the pyramid?
So obviously, big fan of Columbia Care, Nicholas Vita, star. Loved watching what he was doing and hearing about his vision. And when I first got introduced to him, it felt like he was playing a different game than everyone else. And to me, that was like a big differentiator. And I think from a leadership standpoint, for me personally, in this market with the flexibility and the dynamicness of the ever-changing industry, you need somebody that can lead and can take an industry that is moving at rapid speed and make strategic decisions quick that will influence successfully for the long term. And he's definitely shown the propensity to do that, and his experience and background not in cannabis, I think, will help him. I don't think the non-experience won't hurt him, but I think he knows, from at least my small experience with him, is he knows his strengths and his weaknesses, which will allow him to separate from the pack. The others that you've mentioned, probably all are loaded for success as well. But since we only had to select one and you took his company, I'm going to go Kim Rivers and Julia. Low-key, that one is smashing Florida. Absolutely smashing Florida. I think they bought a license in Pennsylvania. I've heard rumors that they're poking around New York because they know how quickly New York's going to evolve. And I think the East Coast dominoes are what's going to separate the next trajectory from a large-scale standpoint. The West Coast has evolved. It's got established players. They've got brands and things like that. But from a leadership standpoint, what Kim brings to the table and what they've done in one state is just wild. And I think you could see them continue to just absolutely explode over the next couple of years.
I like it.
Cool. Thanks everyone for their time. See you next week.
Hi, y'all. I'm Jo, host of Casually Baked, the podcast. If you're curious to explore the highly responsible side of cannabis, farming, and legalization, I'm here to help lighten the stigma and build your canna confidence. Download episodes now of Casually Baked, the podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts. And journey with me through the evolving cannabis culture and discover how and why people like you are adding cannabis to their wellness toolkit. It's time to get casually baked.